Hey everyone, we are the Nerdy Tribunal. This is going to be the part 1 review of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. In case for those that haven't watched the movie yet, be careful of spoilers. Before we go into the discussion, Victor will give you a synopsis of the film.
Okay, so with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we're kind of picking off from the first one. They are actually known as the Guardians of the Galaxy now after the aftermath of the first movie. So we follow on the adventures of Star Lord, Gamora, Drax, Rocket Raccoon, and Groot, Baby Groot this time. And it kind of starts off as them finishing a job for this race of people called the Sovereign. And basically, something goes wrong after the mission is finished, which leads to Peter meeting his dad. And from there on, we kind of find out that his dad's not really who he thinks he is. And a whole bunch of, let's say, bad things kind of happen from that. So, just to kind of keep it brief, that's pretty much a quick synopsis of the movie itself.
So for you guys, what was your kind of highlights of the movie? What do you guys think about it in general?
Overall, I think they did a really good job with the sequel. Normally, with following up to a movie as good as Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, it's going to be a tough job. It's a big hurdle to kind of jump over, right? But I think James Gunn did a really good job here. They made the movie made sense from where they continued off from the first one, and it kind of built upon, like, the first movie was about a team, and this movie is more about family. You can see it in the team sense of a family, but also actually the family sense. So I think they did a really good job kind of having a cohesiveness with the first and the second movie, and I like where they went with this one.
For this one, compared to the first movie, Volume 1, they threw a lot more comedy into it, a lot more action, and there was a lot of feels right there. Right there, it made you feel something, and you give credit to James Gunn, who he's just amazing writer and amazing director. The movie is like amazingly filmed, and the visuals are just out of the world. Like, you have to go see it in IMAX.
For someone that when I watched the first Guardians of the Galaxy, I had no expectations. I didn't know who the heck they were. Walked in, watched it, and that was an amazing movie, in all its sense. So to have a follow up like this and the way it was constructed, it did the first movie justice. It served it justice. It fulfilled a fan. It's even a regular viewer. Never mind a comic fan. A regular viewers need. Need, not the word need. It's filled that kind of fulfillment. It was very fulfilling to watch the second one, because it didn't really lose its kind of pacing, its kind of feelings, and the characters had great comedy, as Tom said, and it was a good movie just in general. If you knew nothing about it, it was still a really good movie. This was a home run, through and through. It's a home run movie. It has a bit of everything, and yeah, I can't describe it in any other way.
Well, the best part of it is I think it can appeal to just the general viewer and to the diehard comic fans, right? So it has a bit of everything for everybody, and you can bring the entire family to watch it. You can watch it on a date night. You can watch it with anybody, and you'll have a good time.
So speaking of a movie for good for diehard fans, what did you guys what interesting points came out from this movie, that especially from your perspective as guys that would be considered diehard comic fans?
Well, for most people, that most comic book fans know that this Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and even this one, it's not that closely related to any comics that's been released by Marvel Comics. It's just they take their own spin on these Guardians. So everyone knows that, or comic book fans know that Ego, who is in this movie Star-Lord's father, isn't actually his father in the comics. So as a comic book fan, it's not too it's not genuine to the original comics.
And is that a problem? Do you guys feel that's like should it be, or like do you think James Gunn did a good job of like changing the story up and still acceptable?
I think it's fine because most people, myself, I follow a lot of the comics, but Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the ones that is probably my weakest point. But it is a comic book movie, but the way it was done and just how everything is meshed, it's actually just a good movie as a general. So it doesn't really affect my opinion on it.
Well, to me, I find it that you can look at the MCU as a separate universe, because in the Marvel comics you have the mainstream 616 universe, you have the Ultimate Universe, you have all these different universes, right? They kind of have their own storylines. So you can kind of look at the MCU as its own storyline, and it works because it does feature all the major characters, all the major players, but they each have like minor differences from the comics, which is totally fine because everybody that worked on this, like Kevin Feige with Whedon, Gunn, and whoever else was involved with all these movies so far, made it work because it's one cohesive unit, right? So even though the storyline might not follow the comics as closely as some fans might want to, it still works in the MCU.
Oh yeah, it's I think not following exactly what is in the comics is actually what makes the movies better, because you will know what's happening if it follows the comics exactly. So it's kind of like an extension of the comics that is live action, I think. So it's kind of like, instead of calling it a 616 or Ultimate Universe, it's the MCU universe. That's how I kind of take it.
And I agree with that too, because you have to expect that not a lot of people also watch the comics when they're younger, right? Or even starting now that they're getting into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? So coming as like just a normal fan of movies, I think it's sort of a great way to sort of let people know these characters in another sort of direction rather than following the comic books itself.
Yeah, that's true. Like now that when you explain it that way, like it's true. Like it's nice to see your kind of childhood heroes or like fan, I guess your like these characters come to life on a real on screen, and it would be really, really good. Just really cool when that happens, I guess.
Okay, so let's talk about the best moments.
Okay, so my favorite thing about this, like, there's so many good scenes in this movie. It's action-packed and a lot of comedy, and there's, a lot of moments, like heartbreaking moments and all that, but I think the comedy has been ramped up to a level that you can't really understand why an action movie should be like that.
It's like an action comedy,
yeah,
like
action comedy drama.
Yeah,
and it worked somehow.
Yeah,
but my favorite thing is probably the comedy, and it has to do with Groot at first, who in the trailer we assumed he was gonna be the funniest thing, but Drax stole the show for sure.
And I agree, Drax stole the show.
Yeah.
Drax was the comedic guy in the movie. And yeah, it's good to see Dave Bautista that has a sort of sense of humor on that side of things.
Yeah, Dave Bautista did an excellent job. It's funny because it's like his acting is like objectively not great, but that's the best part because Drax, as introduced in the first movie, is kind of this like a literal guy, like very literal. He takes everything literally. You say doesn't, I won't say have no emotion. His emotion is exactly as he feels. He speaks his mind. So for him to show like how he's evolved just a little bit through this duration with the Guardians of the Galaxy, to have this kind of I guess comedic side to him was great. So with that kind of his not so great acting and like kind of delivery, it made it even funnier because it fits Drax's character, and some of the stuff that just happened, like when he's pretending to gag, was probably one of the best scenes. That's because he did such a poor job gagging, but the scene was so funny and just made it that much funnier. Like that's just, to me, that was one of my favorite parts. And Baby Groot obviously steals the show with especially the button pressing part when he's trying to, like when Raccoon is, Rocket Raccoon is explaining to him how not to kill everyone. It was just like, oh, that's pretty funny. Like that's kind of cute, right? So I like that part.
And I totally agree with all the guys here. Like the action, comedy, it just everything worked together. But for me, being the hardcore comic guy, it was all the Easter eggs that did it for me. There were so many things. Maybe some that might not be recognizable by just to general viewers, but for like the guys that read the comics and whatnot, like just seeing the original cast of the Guardians of the Galaxy, you see Howard Duck in there, even like with David Hasselhoff coming out of nowhere where no one expected was awesome. Even the ending battle where he transformed into Pac-Man, that was just the nostalgia factor, which was great.
That was pretty
So there was so many Easter eggs throughout the entire movie. Like I think there's countless ones that we could bring up so many more. It just helps build that movie even more, and I think that's what James Gunn is planning to do with building, like, because Feige built the MCU. James Gunn with Feige is probably going to be building the comic cinematic universe.
Karen Gillian and Michael Rooker, especially Michael Rooker, in this film, has killed it. Like I would say that from a guy that you kind of dislike in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, you come to love him, and because it's just that he has touched some of the Guardians' hearts, and then especially that scene with when he was with Rocket Raccoon, when he was explaining that he's very similar to Rocket Raccoon, right? In the sense that you know they're both trying to push people away, trying to be the bad guy, right? But at the end of the day, he saves Peter, and he gets the recognition, right? So I think Michael Rooker, like as Yondu, a fabulous job, and who would forget that? Who would forget that scene? Won't forget a scene that I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. So that's
totally forgot about that.
That was a great reference. That's
a really good reference to that scene, right?
Y'all. No, like that. Yeah, like Yondu was great in here. Like, kind of, it left off from the first movie. You're wondering why Yondu never gave Star-Lord back to his father, and like you figured out why, because like Yondu, he's just you get that feeling, like you kind of feel so sad because Yondu loved Star-Lord and he wanted to keep him alive, right?
Yeah.
So.
Hey guys, don't forget to leave your comments below and tell us how you feel about the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Thank you so much for listening and watching our Part 1 review. Be sure to hit the subscribe button below, or click here for Part 2.